For 22 years, Frank believed his daughter vanished without a trace. Until one dusty morning, he opened her old yearbook, and what he saw inside sent him down a path darker than he ever imagined. A name, a note, a buried secret, and a grave no one knew existed. The year was 1990. Alicia Sanders had just graduated from Mornington High School. She had dreams larger than the coastal cliffs that hemmed in her sleepy Oregon hometown. A scholarship to study marine biology at the University of Oregon, a bright future shimmering on the horizon. But on an ordinary spring morning, she disappeared. No note, no signs of struggle, no body. Frank and Elaine Sanders were left shattered, two parents suspended in an agonizing limbo. For weeks, then months, then years, they searched. Volunteers combed the coastline. Police questioned every friend, every neighbor, every boyfriend. Rumors swirled like the ever-present fog, but not one led to Alicia. Time slowed in that house on the bluff. Alicia's room was preserved like a museum exhibit, every detail frozen. Elaine couldn't bear to enter it. Frank would sometimes just sit at her desk, breathing in the faint scent of old textbooks, salt air, and memory. Then 22 years later, it began with dust. Frank opened a window to air out Alicia's bedroom. The breeze stirred forgotten papers, lifting the corner of a high school yearbook long hidden behind the bed. He picked it up, his hands trembling not from age but from fear of what he might feel. He hadn't looked through it before. Neither had Elaine. In those first few years, even a glimpse of her smiling photo could break them. But now something urged him on. He found her portrait. Alicia, bright-eyed, hopeful. The kind of smile that made you believe anything was possible. Next to her photo, a handwritten message, "Thanks to Mom and Dad for always believing in me. And Amy, don't forget to return my secret garden book, Grandma." Frank smiled. Amy Davidson, Alicia's best friend, practically family. But Frank hadn't seen her in decades. After Alicia vanished, Amy had visited a few times, then faded away like so many others. He turned to Amy's profile, her teenage dreams scribbled on the page, and remembered their sleepovers, their laughter. It felt like a message from Alicia herself, a whisper from the past. Look closer. He dug through Alicia's old boxes, her school books, journals, trinkets from dances and field trips, but no secret garden. The illustrated edition had been her favorite since childhood. She'd lent it to Amy. Had Amy ever returned it? Frank found Amy's number scribbled in the back of the yearbook. "Call me anytime, BFF." It no longer worked. But Elaine knew where Amy was now. "She lives in a camper," she said coldly. "Let it go, Frank." But Frank couldn't. That book felt like a thread, one that might unravel a mystery sewn up too tightly for too long. He found Amy living modestly in a camper park outside town. Amy didn't recognize him at first. But when he said, "I'm Alicia's father," her eyes filled with emotion. He showed her the yearbook. Amy went quiet. Then, without a word, she reached under her bed and pulled out the book. "I never returned it," she whispered. "I couldn't. It's all I have left of her." Inside the book was a bookmark, an old magazine page torn from a teen fashion spread. Frank paused, eyes narrowing on a face. A boy. Familiar. Amy identified him immediately. Jason Murray. He was in our class. Did a little modeling. Has his own brand now. Jason Murray. Frank remembered the name barely. He had never paid much attention to the boy, assuming he had no connection to Alicia. But Amy's expression changed. He liked Alicia, she said cautiously, more than she let on. She was kind to him, tried to help. But he wasn't right. Frank's heart raced. He flipped to Jason's yearbook photo. She asked about him a lot, Amy added. She thought she could help him change. Frank pressed further. Had the police ever investigated Jason? Yes, Amy nodded. But back then, Alicia was dating Brandon Knox. He was the main suspect. Jason just slipped through. Frank felt the ground shift beneath him. Alicia never told him about Jason, never mentioned his name. Amy forwarded Jason's current address. He still lived locally. Wealthy now. Successful. Untouched. Frank drove to Jason's upscale home. He didn't plan to confront him, just watch. But Jason noticed. He confronted Frank with hostility. "I barely knew your daughter," he said. "We were never close. Ask the police." His reaction was too defensive, too rehearsed. Frank left, but something gnawed at him. On his way back into town, he stopped at the funeral home thinking maybe it's time to hold a memorial. Maybe it's time to say goodbye. Then he saw Jason again buying a shovel and a small wooden box and a bouquet of white hyacinths, Alicia's favorite flower. Frank followed him, keeping a safe distance. Jason drove to a secluded cliffside cottage. Frank watched as he walked alone, shovel in hand, toward the edge of the world. He buried something, a box, laid flowers over it, whispered Alicia's name. Frank's heart nearly stopped. When Jason left, Frank approached the spot. He dug. Then a voice cut through the air like a blade. I knew someone was there. Jason had circled back. A confrontation followed. Frank demanded answers. Jason pulled a gun. Frank knocked it away, then pressed the emergency SOS button on his phone. Sirens wailed in the distance. Jason panicked. Police arrived just in time. Jason was arrested. The buried box was unearthed by forensic teams. Inside were handwritten letters, printouts of text messages, photographs, evidence of a secret relationship. Alicia had believed she could fix Jason, that he could change. He had manipulated her. And when she tried to leave, he made sure she never did. Police found Alicia's remains nearby in a shallow grave under the cliff. 22 years, gone in a heartbeat. Elaine and Frank were shattered anew. But at least they finally had truth. A week later, Alicia's ashes were scattered into the ocean she loved. Friends, family, classmates all came. Amy placed the secret garden on the waves, letting it drift into the horizon, Jason confessed. It had all been about control, about obsession. Alicia had tried to save him, but he didn't want saving. As the Sanders sat watching the sun set over the sea, Frank took Elaine's hand. She's finally home, he whispered, no longer lost. Elaine nodded. She believed in the good in people. That's not a flaw, it's a gift. And so, in a quiet town cloaked in fog and memory, Alicia Sanders' story finally found its ending, not in mystery, but in the love that never stopped searching for her. In the weeks that followed, the town of Mornington began to change. The cliffside cottage was seized by police and turned into a restricted zone. A plaque was installed near the overlook, not to mark the tragedy, but to honor Alicia's memory, for those who love deeply and believe fiercely. Frank returned to the spot once quietly just before sunrise. He stood near the edge where the waves crashed below, holding a photo of Alicia laughing on the beach, her hair tangled in wind. He didn't cry. He just whispered, I'm sorry I didn't know. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. But I promise you will be remembered for the light you gave us, not the darkness that took you. Amy visited too often, sitting by the memorial with a thermos of coffee and a book in her lap, the same worn copy of The Secret Garden. Sometimes she'd read aloud as if Alicia were still beside her listening, and Elaine, now finally able to step into Alicia's room without breaking, began a project in her daughter's name, a scholarship fund for young women studying marine biology. Let them go where she couldn't, she told Frank. Let her dreams carry them forward. Jason Murray was tried and sentenced. The courtroom was packed, not out of vengeance, but out of collective grief, healing, and community. His confession, along with the physical evidence, was enough to ensure he would never again see the ocean Alicia loved. The story made national headlines, but for the Sanders family, closure came not from the cameras, not from the verdict, but from the knowledge that the truth, however painful, had finally surfaced. And so, as seasons turned and the fog rolled in once more, Mornington learned to breathe again. A town that had held its breath for over 2 decades now whispered Alicia's name, not in fear or mystery, but in reverence and remembrance. She had vanished, yes, but now she was found, seen, known, and never ever forgotten. If this story moved, you take a moment to reflect on the power of memory and the strength it takes to seek the truth, even when the world tells you to let go. Leave a comment below and share what part of Alicia's story touched you the most. Subscribe to Tim's Stories for more true stories of hope, justice, and resilience. And don't forget to turn on notifications because every story we tell deserves to be heard.